Hello and welcome to Lydd International Kart Club on the 9th of April 2023. Not only is it round 3 of the Blue Challenge, but the Formula Blue O plates are on the line. The O plate going to the driver with the lowest combined grid and finish for both the seniors and the juniors. So plenty on the line this afternoon. In the Honda Cadet Championship, no action unfortunately as Devon Giles unable to make it to this flyaway round. He'll look to resume his championship challenge at Mansell Raceway. In the juniors, however, it was the returning Rudy Winslow Morton who would sweep the day to take the O plate ahead of series leader Alpi Lenton. And good news for the juniors is Jack Gillett slated to be joining the grid from Mansell onwards, so that's good news for the juniors. However, the senior blue standings going into this race, Harry Smithson and Dave Watts even at the top of the table. Anthony Cleal third ahead, heading up a three-way tie between Tom Parker and Stuart Gray. Joey Foster in 6th ahead of Scott Lay and Kevin Ford, with Mike Bell 9th and David Waldron making up the top 10. Kieran Quirk comes next ahead of Nigel Vickery and Steve Groves, with Max Gunter and Alex Kemp completing the top 15, ahead of Toby Cook, Rob Mortimer, Mitch Carpenter, John Hartshorn and Paul Alexander is going to be rounding out the top 20 after a poor start to the season by his standards. In the Blue Masters, Anthony Cleal leading the way ahead of Joey Foster and Stuart Gray, all even on points. David Waldron 4th ahead of Nigel Vickery and Kevin Ford, with Alex Kemp 7th ahead of Steve Groves, Rob Mortimer and Paul Alexander completing the top 10. They're going to be ahead of Kevin O'Neill, Anthony Lee, John Hartshorn, Chris Underhill and Paul Wheeler, the novice, completing the top 15 in the Masters standings. Moving on to the Blue Veterans standings, it will be another top of the table for Anthony Cleal. Stuart Gray only 2 points adrift in 2nd, ahead of David Waldron and Nigel Vickery even on points. Kevin Ford completes the top 5 ahead of Rob Mortimer and Steve Groves, with Paul Alexander 8th ahead of Kevin O'Neill and John Hartshorn, kart number 90, making up the top 10. Paul Wheeler in behind once again ahead of Ron Schoen, Chris Underhill, David Good and Robin Stones. And in the Blue Legends standings, it's been a perfect season so far from Stuart Gray. He's leading the way on 0 points. Kevin O'Neill 2 points adrift in 2nd, with John Hartshorn and Kevin Ford a point adrift apiece ahead of Ron Schoen. And in the Blue Top Weights, it's David Waldron and Tom Parker tied at the top of the table. Rob Mortimer is 3rd ahead of Ron Schoen. There's still a number of top weight drivers looking to get off the mark, including number 21 Stuart Adam making his return to Formula Blue today. Already in the books, we have the 3 heats as Robin Stones having a quick run back to his pit. Dave Watts would take the win in Heat 1 along with the fastest lap ahead of Harry Smithson and Anthony Cleal. Stuart Gray 4th ahead of Mike Bell and Steve Groves, with Alex Kemp and 7th. Jack Baker makes his debut in the Formula Blue Series. He's going to be 8th in Heat 1 ahead of David Waldron and fellow novice Scott Lay making up the top 10. Harry Smithson would take his win back in Heat 2 ahead of Dave Watts. Anthony Cleal 3rd once again ahead of Stuart Gray and Mike Bell. This time David Waldron in 6th ahead of Scott Lay and Jack Baker, with Alex Kemp and Rob Mortimer making up the top 10. See there, Robin Stone looks to be a transponder. Putting that back on, that will be pretty important. Heat 3 was won by Stuart Gray this time ahead of Dave Watts and Harry Smithson, with Anthony Cleal in 4th. Mike Bell makes it a trio of 5th places ahead of Steve Groves and Alex Kemp, with Paul Alexander, David Waldron and Robin Stones completing the top 10 in the 3rd and final heat of the day. And they will set the grid for this afternoon's final, and it's Dave Watts, the reigning O-plate, starting his defence from the front. Alongside him on the front row is Harry Smithson, Stuart Gray 3rd ahead of Anthony Cleal, Mike Bell and Alex Kemp on row 3 ahead of David Waldron and Steve Groves. The 2 novices Scott Lay and Jack Baker make up row 5 ahead of Paul Alexander. Robin Stones in 12th ahead of John Hartshorn. Rob Mortimer, Stuart Adam and Ron Schoen will be completing the 16 strong grid, taking to the track for the final. As you can see, the final few drivers starting to line up into formation as it's Dave Watts leading us over the ump. Harry Smithson up alongside him, row 2 Stuart Gray and Anthony Cleal. Looking to be a feisty start, as there is Stuart Adam and Ron Schoen just catching up to the pack. Bit of a slow start from somebody out of the dummy grid, but everyone's all in formation now as we head onto the back stretch. Harry Smithson and Dave Watts playing mind games with each other already. Stuart Gray leaving a bit of a gap, likewise Steve Groves, but that will all close up as they head round the final corner. There's Watts and Smithson, they've got to stick to the tram lines. And the O-plate final, round 3 of the Blue Challenge is underway now, and it's a good start from Watts, but Smithson's gone with him, as is Gray and Cleal, as the whole pack thunders into the first chicane. Has Mike Bell going out wide. Jack Baker looking to try and get up the inside of a 3 wide further back, but into the second chicane it is Watts leading from Smithson, Gray, Cleal, Kemp up to 5th ahead of Bell, Waldron and Groves. Scott Lay there going around the outside of Jack Baker, is now under attack from Robin Stoddart Stones, so we head up towards the Yump for the first time, and Smithson down the inside. Harry Smithson takes the lead halfway around the first lap ahead of David Watts. Smithson, don't forget, did win here last month, but now he is heading the fray as he gets his head down. Big headwind on this back straight as they head towards the final corner. Paul Alexander and Jack Baker side by side further back, but as we end the first lap, it's Smithson leading from Watts, Gray, Cleal, Kemp, Bell, Waldron, Groves, Lay, Stoddart Stones, Baker, Alexander, Hartshorn, Mortimer, Schoen and Adam. Round now in towards the second chicane, up towards Top Bend. Anthony Cleal getting close to the back bumper of Stuart Gray. In behind there, that's Steve Groves under attack from Scott Lay as we head over the Yump for the second time. Into this tight right-hander, very fast with a big curb on the inside. As Rob Mortimer further back looking at John Hartshorn, but Hartshorn's going to hold the position for now as they head on towards the back stretch. And that's Jack Baker, and that's something's come off the back of him there. That potentially could be a chain guard, and if it is, that'll be his race over as soon as the marshals spot it. So that's an unfortunate debut in his first final for for Jack Baker, if that is the case. But meanwhile, the racing goes on as everyone starts another lap. Mike Bell on the tail of Alex Kemp. David Waldron starting to come under pressure from Steve Groves, who still has Scott Lay all up on his back bumper. But over the Yump, that's Stuart Gray in third, starting to close in against David Watts. Kemp and Bell bumper to bumper in behind, but here's Waldron, Gray and Lay. And on the back stretch, that's Mike Bell getting a good run. He's going to move to the inside of Alex Kemp down into pit bend, and Bell takes 5th place. But Alex Kemp looking to fight back already, you can tell. In behind there, David Waldron leads a 3-strong group as the leaders head up towards the second chicane. Smithson keeping David Watts at arm's length for the time being, but Stuart Gray is visibly closing in. Seems to be breaking into groups of 2 and 3 at the moment, with only Anthony Cleal really by himself as the lead group go over the Yump. And further back there, that is Steve Groves down the inside of Scott Lay, so Scott Lay must have gained the position up in Top Bend. So switching back and forth for, I believe, 7th and 8th. As down the back straight they go towards another lap. As across the line go the leaders. As the battle for 5th, battle for 7th. In behind there, that's Robin Stoddart Stones under pressure from Jack Baker. Paul Alexander in behind as well. So another group of 3 head up towards the second chicane. And you can see in the distance that's Alexander up the inside of Baker. But in the foreground, Steve Groves all over the back of Waldron, and sure enough, Paul Alexander has made the move against Jack Baker. And Baker is dropping off, potentially given the black and orange flag for a missing chain guard. If so, that'll be his race over. But meanwhile, the leader, Stuart Gray, all over the back of David Watts. Steve Groves looking to hustle against David Waldron. Paul Alexander already attacking Robin Stoddart Stones. Is into the first chicane. It goes Smithson, Watts and Gray close as that. Round pit bend though, Robin Stoddart Stones gets a bit sideways. Paul Alexander with a big run. He's going to sweep around the outside into the first corner. Great move there from Alexander, gaining the place against Robin Stoddart Stones. But back up to the lead, Harry Smithson keeping Dave Watts at arm's length. Stuart Gray in behind, looking for a move. Nothing doing there as they head round this long right-hander and onto the back stretch. Can Gray get the run? We'll soon find out. As here's Rob Mortimer once again on the back of John Hartshorn over the Yump and down the inside, and a good move there from Rob Mortimer is going to gain him the place. Round the final corner goes Cleal, Bell, Kemp. Steve Groves running a bit wide in his pursuit of David Waldron. Scott Lay tucked up tight behind them both as well. Then it's Alexander and Stoddart Stones. Further back there, Rob Mortimer ahead of John Hartshorn, and Stuart Adam looking to put the pressure against Ron Schoen. And meanwhile, up the track into Top Bend, Steve Groves looking to get the run against David Waldron, but nothing doing there though. It's onto the back stretch. Stuart Gray tucked in behind David Watts. Now here is David Waldron and Stuart Gray. That is Steve Groves getting the run, and Scott Lay having to get onto the curb to avoid. Well held there from Scott Lay though. Meanwhile, up towards the second chicane, Smithson all over the curbs in the lead. Dave Watts in second, and Stuart Gray tucked up tight behind. As they round Top Bend and down towards the Yump, Stuart Gray looking to the inside against David Watts, and Stuart Gray slots into second position ahead of Watts. And that is big, since now Harry Smithson is provisionally winning the O-plate. So all chopping and changing, not just for the lead of the race, as there's Paul Alexander on his own. We've lost Robin Stoddart-Stones, and there he is pushing his cart into the pit lane. So something's happened to Stoddart-Stones. Meanwhile, the race still going on. Stuart Adam chasing down Ron Schoen over the yump. But in the lead of the race is Harry Smithson, as through the first chicane goes the battle for 7th. David Waldron still leading that group. And there's Alexander on his own for the moment. But back to the lead of the race, it's Harry Smithson provisionally leading the O-plate. Stuart Gray looking to try and bridge across to him, and then Dave Watts in behind. As there's Ron Schoen with Stuart Adam all over his back bumper. Adam looks like he's got the run. As they fly through in the background, there's Mike Bell, there's Alex Kemp chasing him down as they're both setting off after Anthony Cleal. That gap's pretty big though, so it looks like Cleal on his own in 4th. As through the first chicane go the leaders. Looking pit bend now, that's once again Steve Groves with the run against David Waldron. Scott Lay right on top of him as they go through the first chicane. And now onto the back stretch goes Ron Schoen. Stuart Adam tucked right up behind him, using all the slipstream, pulling out to the inside for pit bend. And Stuart Adam makes the place against Ron Schoen. Now can he hold off on exit? Ron Schoen gets a good run into the first chicane side by side, and Stuart Adam sweeps across the front of Schoen. And Stuart Adam gains that position. Meanwhile, further up the road, Rob Mortimer starting to check out against John Hartshorn. And Stuart Adams opened up a couple of lengths already to Ron Schoen. Meanwhile, that's Steve Groves down the inside into pit bend against David Waldron, and Groves has made the move stick, so all is changing for 7th position. Now Scott Lay looking for the run against David Waldron as they go through the first chicane, and already Steve Groves starting to put a gap into the number 5 and also the number 55 in battle as they head up now towards top bend. And you can see Groves extending it on the exit, but Scott Lay looking to go down the inside as David Waldron moves to defend his position. Round the left-hander onto the back straight they go. And onto another lap go the leaders, and that's Smithson getting a huge curb hit in the first chicane. Stuart Gray is already tucked up behind him. Oh, and Smithson's lost it. He's going to run wide, and Stuart Gray is going to go around the outside to take the lead here at the Formula Blue O-plate as they head up towards top bend. And Harry Smithson's gathered it all back up, but David Watts is right on his tail now as they go over the yump. The Praga against the Tony Kart, and they're both chasing the red speed of Stuart Gray, who is now provisionally leading the O-plate. And now David Watts down to the inside for pit bend. It's Watts going through against Harry Smithson. And he's done it. Dave Watts up to 2nd. Smithson down to 3rd as they cross the line to start another lap. Through the first chicane they go. Watts on the exit curb of the first chicane, but Harry Smithson's not quite going to get the run. Meanwhile there, that's Scott Lay all over the back bumper against David Waldron. Kart 5 plays Kart 55 as they head through the first chicane. And further back still, that is Stuart Adam. He's not managed to check out against Ron Schoen as they head onto the back straight. But there's the leaders. They're all heading onto the back straight now. Not that big of a gap between the leaders and the back of the pack. Now can Stuart Gray catch up to them as they go across to start the final lap of the race? It's Gray leading from Watts and Smithson. Through the first chicane they go. Stuart Adams still holding off Ron Schoen, as you can see that gap coming down to the leaders. Harry Smithson looking left, looking right. Dave Watts has put the defensive move on because he's done the maths. He knows if he finishes where he is, he will retain his O-plate for another year. Over the yump they go. Smithson having to go the long way round, but nothing doing there as they head onto the back straight. Stuart Gray is in front by enough that he's not under attack, but Watts certainly is down in towards the final corner. Watts goes defensive, but across the line they go. Stuart Gray's going to win here at Lydd, and in second it's going to be Dave Watts, just holding off Harry Smithson. So Dave Watts does enough to retain his O-plate for another year. Great run there by the top 3. As into pit bend there in the distance, that's Scott Lay all over the back of David Waldron. Who's going to get the run to the line? It's going to be Waldron, but not by much. The racing still going on though. Ron Schoen attacking Stuart Adam up and over the yump. Now down round this long left-hander and onto the back stretch they go. Keep an eye in the background for them. You can see Ron Schoen's got more straight line speed. He's going to close up under braking into pit bend. Hartshorn's going to cross the line in front of them, but who's going to win the sprint to the line? It's too close to tell. Neck and neck stuff there for Ron Schoen and Stuart Adam. And the results will show that Stuart Adam gained that position by 0.03 of a second, but Stuart Gray, the winner of round 3 of the Blue Challenge, ahead of Dave Watts. Harry Smithson in 3rd ahead of Anthony Cleal and Mike Bell. Alex Kemp finishes 6th ahead of Steve Groves and David Waldron. Scott Lay and Paul Alexander complete the top 10 ahead of Rob Mortimer and John Hartshorn. Stuart Adam pips Ron Schoen to 13th ahead of Robin Stoddart Stones, and Jack Baker there. His race ended early after a chain guard went and detached itself. You can see there the pack heading back towards the pit lane, and that will do to the championship. Dave Watts, thanks to his retention of the O plate, will jump into the lead of the championship. Harry Smithson moves down to 2nd ahead of Stuart Gray and Anthony Cleal. Mike Bell jumps up to 5th ahead of Scott Lay and David Waldron, with Alex Kemp moving into 8th, even on points with Steve Groves, and Rob Mortimer making up the top 10. Paul Alexander is going to jump up to 11th spot ahead of John Hartshorn and Max Gunter, with Ron Schoen and Robin Stoddart Stones 14th and 15th. In the Blue Masters, it will be a win on the day for Stuart Gray to take the Masters O plate and also to take the lead of the Blue Masters standings ahead of Anthony Cleal. David Waldron in 3rd ahead of Alex Kemp and Steve Groves, with Paul Alexander, Rob Mortimer, John Hartshorn, Ron Schoen and Robin Stoddart Stones making up the top 10. Joey Foster, having to miss this race due to injury, will be 11th ahead of Nigel Vickery and Kevin Ford, with Kevin O'Neill also out through injury in 14th. In the Blue Veteran standings, Anthony Cleal is going to retain the lead of the championship despite Stuart Gray taking the win on the day. David Waldron in 3rd ahead of Steve Groves and Paul Alexander, with Rob Mortimer, John Hartshorn, Ron Schoen, Robin Stoddart Stones and Nigel Vickery to complete the top 10. In the Blue Legend standings, another subclass O plate for Stuart Gray is going to propel him to the top of the table. John Hartshorn in 2nd ahead of Ron Schoen and Robin Stoddart Stones, with Kevin O'Neill making up the top 5 ahead of Kevin Ford, Chris Underhill, David Good, Mark Kirk, Nigel Pritchard and Chris Lord. And a win on the day for the Blue Top Weight sees David Waldron retaining his perfect score at the top of the table. Rob Mortimer in 2nd ahead of Ron Schoen and Tom Parker, with new entry to the Top Weight Championship Paul Alexander making up the top 5. That will be all for today from Lydd International Kart Club. We will leave you in the capable hands of Ron Schoen for the O plate presentations, and then we will see you next time out at Mansell Raceway in a couple of weeks.
In the year, these people are going to use their O plate for the rest of the year. And I'm going to start with the juniors. So good to see him back. He wins it. Rudy Winslow Morton.
Hello, Rudy.
The Vice Chairman of the NKRA, Mr. Clear, will be doing the presentations. And for those who are concerned, it is alcohol-free for the juniors. This is a little bit of a shock. Now, moving on to the FBs, the fats, anyway, and the winner in this one, and he's only made the top race this year. That's what a season in Bansco's eating does for you. It is David Waldron. There's a lot of very special names on there, includes me. Hasn't been on there for a while. Okay. Then I move up to the next 3 categories, because one bloke has won them all. A testament to an older fella who has whipped the arse of most of the young ones in the group. A fantastic effort. The winner in the Formula Blue Master, the Formula Blue Veteran, and the Formula Blue Legend, all the way again, is Stuart Gray.
Yeah, you got to carry them all back in one go.
Photographs in, babies.
Go on, get in there. I'll do the one for them. As the Lydd owner.
If you slowed up a bit, you wouldn't need to carry 3.
Hey, come on.
Don't complain, Stuart.
Be the extra hands.
Oh.
No complaining. Go on, get in the picture.
Take a picture.
Get in the picture.
No, don't need me.
Oh, give me this. Right, all of you, look at me, cheese. Ronnie, come on.
You wouldn't have felt it.
Right, now we move on to the winner, the Formula Blue Champion 2023. And again, for those who are unaware, it is where you start and where you finish added together. And that made a difference.
He's won by default.
In front of the others who couldn't keep up. And at the end of the day, this is something which is a Formula Blue concept, and it's designed to make sure that just one-offs don't win, but consistency and speed win together. And the winner of the O-Plate, retaining his title, is David Watts. I didn't want it yet.
All right.
Calm down. Is it like grip?
No, it's not a hula hoop. Right, the Formula Blues, on behalf of us, I'd like to thank Lydd for their efforts and attentions. We had a very good Friday. The breakfasts here are stunning. I even cancelled my travel. I just wanted to have one here. That's how good it was. Well done in the back there. Great. We will see you again in 2 months' time. In the meantime, the Formula Blues now migrate to Mansell, the other side of the country on the west side. 3 weeks' time. Everything raring to go. Thank you, Lydd. Thank everyone else who made it.